Before this story begins, listen closely, because what you're about to hear isn't just a love story, it's a test of character. A single father, desperate for money, agrees to destroy a blind date. His target, a woman the world underestimates every single day. But one reaction, one unexpected act of dignity, will flip the power completely and expose who the real small person in the room is. If you believe kindness still has the power to shock the world, subscribe now, because stories like this don't just entertain, they change how you see people. He told himself it was just another job, the kind you take when rent is late, your kids' shoes are worn through at the toes, and pride has already been sold off in smaller, quieter pieces. Mark Ellison was 38, a widowed single father with a 6-year-old son named Noah, living in a cramped flat above a closed-down bakery in a city that promised opportunity but delivered bills. When the message came through an anonymous number offering $2,000 to ruin a blind date discreetly but decisively, Mark stared at the screen longer than he should have. He didn't ask who the woman was at first. He only asked how. The reply was cold and efficient. Embarrass her, make her leave early, ensure she never wants to see the man again. Half now, half after. Only when Mark pressed further did the final line arrive, almost as an afterthought, as if it explained everything. She has dwarfism, she's sensitive, she won't push back. That line sat heavier than the money. Mark didn't like it, but he told himself lies come easier when you need them. He told himself he wasn't hurting anyone, just playing a role, just exposing incompatibility faster than fate would. He didn't know her name yet when he walked into the softly lit restaurant overlooking the river, adjusting the collar of a borrowed jacket, rehearsing subtle cruelty like an actor afraid of forgetting his lines. Then he saw her. Lily Hart sat at the table, posture straight, chin lifted, hands folded with practiced calm, wearing a blue dress that fit her perfectly, not hiding anything, not apologizing for existing. She smiled when she saw him, a real smile, not the cautious one people use when they expect rejection. Something in Mark faltered immediately. This was not a fragile woman waiting to be crushed. This was someone used to standing in the open while the world decided what to do with her. Still, he sat down. Still, he began. He made jokes that leaned too far, comments that landed wrong, exaggerated stories meant to sound impressive but rang hollow. He talked over her, corrected her harmless statements, deliberately ordered without asking her preference. Each small cruelty stacked on the next. He waited for her face to fall, for the shame he'd been promised. Instead, Lily observed him quietly, the way a calm adult watches a child throw a tantrum. When the waiter returned, Mark finally went for the planned kill, loud enough to be heard, joking that he'd expected someone different, that blind dates should come with warnings. The restaurant went still, forks paused, breath caught, and then Lily did something no one, especially the person paying Mark, expected. She laughed softly, not bitterly, not nervously, but genuinely, and said she was grateful for honesty, because it saved time, and that she hoped whatever had hurt him healed soon. She stood, paid for her own drink, wished him well, and walked out with her head high. Mark sat frozen, heat crawling up his neck, feeling something close to shame for the first time in years. His phone buzzed moments later, payment confirmed. Job done. But as he watched Lily cross the street outside, alone but unbroken, Mark realized something had gone terribly wrong, not for her, but for him. The money helped. At first, Noah's shoes were replaced, groceries filled the fridge, but Mark couldn't sleep. Lily's reaction replayed in his mind, not as an accusation but as a mirror. Days later, fate, or guilt, forced their paths to cross again when Mark took Noah to a community fundraiser at the local library, lured by free books and cheap hot dogs. Lily stood at the front of the room, confidently leading a children's storytelling session, animated and warm, the kids hanging on every word. Noah sat cross-legged, rapt. Mark felt his chest tighten. This was the woman he'd been paid to humiliate. After the session, Noah ran up to her, telling her she was the best reader ever, asking if she'd come back next week. Lily smiled and promised she would. Then she saw Mark. Recognition flickered, but there was no anger, no scene. Just calm acknowledgement. Mark tried to apologize immediately, clumsily, admitting he'd been having a bad day, a bad life, a bad stretch of decisions. Lily listened, really listened, then told him something that cut deeper than shouting ever could. She said she knew he'd been paid, because this wasn't the first time someone had tried to buy her humiliation, and it probably wouldn't be the last. She said what hurt wasn't the cruelty, but how cheap people thought her dignity was. Mark confessed everything then. His son, his debt, the message, the money. Lily didn't forgive him right away. She didn't need to. She told him forgiveness wasn't a gift for liars, but growth might be. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed naturally, cautiously. Mark volunteered at the library. Lily helped Noah with reading. Conversations replaced performances. Mark learned Lily was an accessibility consultant, advising companies on inclusive design, often fighting rooms full of executives who smiled politely while ignoring her expertise. She told him about the man who'd paid to ruin the date, a colleague who resented her promotion, who wanted to remind her of her place. Mark felt sick. He offered to return the money publicly, to expose the man. Lily surprised him again by refusing. She said she didn't want revenge, she wanted results. Instead, she asked Mark to do something harder, to speak up, to stand beside her when it mattered, not as a savior but as an ally willing to admit past wrongs. The man who paid Mark was about to pitch a major project to the city. Lily was scheduled to present alternative plans emphasizing accessibility. Mark attended the meeting, uninvited but determined. When the room dismissed Lily's recommendations, Mark spoke, revealing the attempted sabotage, naming the behavior, not to shame but to clarify character. The room shifted. Questions followed. The pitch stalled. Lily's plan moved forward. Mark didn't feel heroic. He felt accountable. For the first time, that felt better than money. Months passed. Mark's life changed in small, steady ways. He took a full-time job with a nonprofit focused on inclusive housing, recommended by Lily but earned on his own merit. Noah thrived, surrounded by adults who modeled respect instead of shortcuts. Lily and Mark didn't rush into romance, despite what people assumed. Trust, Lily said, grows at walking speed. When they did finally choose each other, it was quietly, without spectacle, built on truth instead of rescue fantasies. The man who tried to buy Lily's humiliation eventually faced consequences, not because of outrage, but because patterns have a way of surfacing when light is applied long enough. On the anniversary of their disastrous first meeting, Mark and Lily returned to the same restaurant, not to rewrite the past but to acknowledge it. Mark told her he still carried guilt. Lily told him guilt was useful only if it sharpened kindness. Outside, the river moved on. Indifferent and constant, Mark realized the job he'd taken to ruin someone had instead dismantled him, stripping away excuses, leaving responsibility in their place. Lily never framed herself as the lesson, but the world learned anyway, through her presence, that dignity doesn't shrink to fit other people's comfort. As they walked home, Noah between them, holding both their hands, Mark understood the final twist. The night he was paid to ruin a blind date, he'd actually been given something rarer than forgiveness, a second chance to be the kind of man his son could grow up proud of. And Lily, who had been underestimated her entire life, didn't change because of love, love changed because of her.